But we don't need any more housing for rich people. We need it for those who can't afford the market rate. As the mayor, I would have all the housing be for not affordable, because affordable to whom? I would say low income, middle income, families, artists, seniors. That's who needs housing. And we would have a moratorium on everything that wasn't for them. And we would tax the rich at the federal, state, and local level so that we have those services for seniors too. Thank you.
Ms. Reese has the next question, followed by Mr. Alvarez, followed by Mr. Chu.
I'll ask my question to Dennis Ferreira. As I go door to door and work bus stops in the morning, I hear from people who often tell me they're not going to be here maybe in November because of the uncertainty around school placement. And I ask, is it placement or is it quality? They said a bit of both. What's the uncertainty about when my child is placed? And really wanting neighborhood schools as a first choice. Do you support the neighborhood schools initiative?
The one that's on the ballot.
And just neighborhood schools, as a leader at City Hall, would you support neighborhood schools first?
I'm not voting in favor of the ballot initiative, but let me tell you, I empathize with what it is that you are talking about vis-a-vis predictability and certainty for parents. What does a parent want? A parent wants predictability and certainty for their child to ensure that they're going to get quality education for as long as possible. Unfortunately, the first interaction, oftentimes, that a parent has with the school district is inherently uncertain and unpredictable, and that is school assignment. And you go through a lottery system, you don't get one of your top 7 choices unless you're pretty lucky, and then you're faced with the prospect of going through it in 5th grade and 8th grade again. And that's when folks move from Noe Valley to Mill Valley when their kid is 6 years old. But I'm very proud of what my office has done working with the school district to help to develop a new school assignment system that adds more predictability and certainty to the process by adding more weight to the neighborhood school component, to have that be of greater weight, to ensure that there is more predictability and certainty with respect to a child's assignment to school. And I am in favor of that. I also am in favor of what we talked a little bit about earlier about community schools. I think that assuring that we have city services put in schools, from daycare, the health and wellness programs, to rec and park programs, to transit, is good for a lot of reasons. You are showing that you're providing value to the kids that are there, to the parents of the kids that are there, but also to the surrounding neighborhood of that school, irrespective of whether they have kids in that school or not. And those individuals are going to be more likely to invest in the school district because they are getting something out of it. So that is what I am in favor of, and in favor of moving towards the neighborhood school model.
We have a response from Ms. Baum, and then from Ms. Reese.
Yes, I just want to comment that unfortunately, sadly, there is also a racist agenda underneath the neighborhood schools movement, and it would certainly, in this case, lead to a great deal more segregation in our schools than we have now. And unfortunately, we do not have every school as an excellent school. I really hope that someday we'll have to certainly reform Proposition 13 so that we get more tax dollars to the schools. But until then, we have to give every parent the chance to get their child into the best school possible.
1 minute for Ms. Reese, 1 minute for Mr. Duffy, 1 minute for Ms. Aliota.
So we actually, through the San Francisco School Alliance, brought in an outside research firm to look at what would happen if we went to neighborhood schools in terms of diversity. And we actually, with a few redistricting lines, actually achieved better diversity by having kids go to neighborhood schools. I do think we should put grades on schools so we understand where to allocate resources. If a school's getting a D grade, we know it needs more support. I will tell you, I spent a lot of time with kids in the Bayview who participated in a volunteer-led summer school program. I met kids who were junior year age with no high school credits, who told me, and when I said, and none of them dropped out of the summer school program. Every kid came first thing in the morning till the end of the day, and they stayed all summer. And I said, why? And they said, it's in my neighborhood. I get on 3 or 4 buses to get to a school in the marina or on the west side of town, and it just makes getting to school really difficult. I will tell you, even spending time with families in Bernal Heights, you can go on one block and 20 kids go to different schools. 20 kids on a block all go to different schools, and mothers will tell me, I can't even get a neighbor to help me if I get sick, and that's the reason I'm supportive of neighborhood schools.
Mr. Duffy.
Thank you. I'm certainly not supporting a measure on the ballot because it's not a real measure. It's a measure that's an advisory opinion. It's only in San Francisco that you can whip people up about something that's not going to have any effect other than to be advisory. And I think that that's a disservice when the school district has gone about a change. My child entered public school 2 weeks ago based upon the new assignment system, and I think we ought to figure it out a bit. Let's talk about the real issues. It's about the achievement gap. It's about making more schools competitive and schools of choice for families. Only 25% of the families in San Francisco picked their closest school. So obviously, families want choice. You need to give them more certainty. But let's get to the real deal. There are 162 kids in San Francisco public schools that are simultaneously in the juvenile justice, child welfare, and mental health system. We know those are the kids that are going to be dead in 5 years. We know that the largest problem of truancy starts in elementary school.
Mr. Duffy, you've used all your cards.
Huh?
You've used all your cards.
What did I have 3 or 4?
It's 3.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I have a lot of blue paper in front of me. Sorry.
Ms. Ayala, and Mr. Alvarez for the intervention.
He's having too much fun. I want to say, I agree with Ms. Reese on this point. And what we have found in San Francisco, looking at the Neighborhood School Initiative in particular, is that it's our African American communities in the Bayview and our Asian communities out in Richmond that have been the strongest proponents of it. And part of the reason for that is because when we look at some of our communities and some of our neighborhoods, back in the 70s, when we kept our kids close, we had reverends and churches and community centers that took these kids in after school. So they came back to programs that were established within their community. That's where they stayed, that's where they studied, that's where they learned how to do certain art projects and music projects and sports. And what happened through our busing system was that we started pushing our kids away. And when we did, we saw an increase in violence and we saw an increase in crime because they were going 45 minutes away from their communities. And their communities could no longer uphold them. And so when we look at this particular issue and when we look at where the polling is, it is loud and very it's loud and very forceful in our lower income communities. The other thing I want to say is that we've had a number, and I love my dear friend Mr. Duffy, but we have had a number of initiatives that have started off as policy statements that have gone on to become stronger ordinances and resolutions. And the reason for that is to get a sense of where San Francisco feels and how strong people are around one issue, especially a controversial one, and especially one that can change the makeup of San Francisco schools so dramatically. And so it's important because of what it says. Bevan's right. It has no teeth to it other than to say we want choice. We want to be able to be putting our kids in our neighborhood schools if that's where we want to go, and we want it to be higher on the list of reasons for assignment.
Mr. Alvarez.
I really see the value of neighborhood schools, but we've been down the road before to look at just an emphasis on neighborhood schools. And we know that in our past history in San Francisco, it's led to segregation. And we have one of our greatest assets in this city is our great diversity here. We need to be figuring out how we don't send kids who live in Bayview, Hunters Point, all the way across town, but there are good schools in the center part of the city that are doing a fine job of educating people. Balboa High School has had an amazing turnaround. It attracts students from both the east side and the west side of the city. And you're seeing now that actually it's having a greater success rate for getting people ready for college than many other schools. Actually, a lot of people are actually looking at that over Lowell High School. It's a really fabulous model that we can actually achieve. We also have small schools that are providing alternatives as well that are actually on the east side of town. June Jordan School for Equity, which is in the Excelsior District, is doing a wonderful job, and they're getting 70% of their students, often African American Latino students, college ready. That is a more than any other school. That's what we need to be able to change our education system, is to make them more small and equitable. Thank you.
And the next question is from Mr. Avalos and then Mr. Chu.
This is a question for Dennis Herrera, and it's about how we can, what are your ideas about increasing housing to support families, so we can keep families in San Francisco? I have a big concern about how the city is emphasizing luxury housing and not doing enough to really support middle class and working class housing.
I think that housing is tied into jobs. And we've been talking about jobs, and I think one key thing that we have to make sure of is to recognize that our last economic boom here in San Francisco was based on speculation. Real estate speculation and financial services speculation. And our next economic boom has to focus on creating economic opportunity for folks at all levels of the socioeconomic scale. But tied into that is housing. And I believe that affordable housing is important. We have to make sure that we are providing housing opportunities at every level of the socioeconomic scale. An affordable housing bond is something that we need to see go on the ballot, get community-wide support, and pass. Workforce housing, providing housing opportunities for folks in medium income, which was discussed several years ago during Mayor Gavin Newsom's administration. We have to focus on that as well. But we also have to make sure that we are looking at protecting our rental stock here, and that's why I'm proud of what my office did to bring down the Lemby empire, when it was taking advantage of tenants here in San Francisco to an inordinate degree and putting people out in the street. So it's a mixture. Affordable housing, bond, workforce housing, and make sure we're protecting our rental stock by assuring that rent control is protected and we're providing rental opportunities for tenants here as well, but through creative ways of protecting them.
Long sentence at the end there. Mr. Chu, the last question in this round.
All right, let Dennis run my blue cards. I want to continue on this theme of affordable housing. I absolutely agree with John that one of the biggest challenges we're facing right now is the lack of affordable housing. Literally thousands of tenants have been evicted and homeowners have been foreclosed upon in recent years. I want to ask my question to Michaela. I want to thank you for supporting legislation that I had sponsored to increase affordable housing for seniors, for homeless veterans, home ownership opportunities for low-income folks. And I'd like you to talk about what plans you have to ensure that tenants are protected here in San Francisco and that we're increasing our affordable housing opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. It was good legislation. And what I will say is that it's interesting. I get asked this a lot. I get asked my stand on rent control. And I think a lot of the reason for it is because I'm coming out of District 2. And people automatically make an assumption that you're not going to be for it. One thing that's interesting about rent control is that in San Francisco, this beautiful city of ours on 7 hills, if you have a disability, you're not going to be able to live in San Francisco if there is no rent control. Most people, 80% of the disabled population lives at the poverty level. And so it is one of the things that keeps our city diverse and it keeps our city strong, because people who otherwise would not be able to live here and not be able to stay here and not be able to have their families here are given the right and the ability to do so. When we start talking about affordable housing, I'm going to touch very briefly on something that I think is really important, which is affordable housing for our emancipated youth. I had a project in District 2. I had 2 projects in District 2. One of them was fabulous. It was the Booker T. Washington project. I believe, and I'm a little rusty on the numbers, but I think we looked at about 40 units, half of which went to emancipated youth. We had a radio station that's going in, a preschool that's going in, and a lot of the facility around it to help pull together programs and stuff for the kids who are coming out of foster care. We had we had another project in District 2 regarding emancipated youth. Only it was an inaccessible project. Do I have any?
No.
I'll talk about it in my close. Thank you.
Mr. Alvarez is not going to ask a question of this round, so you've got 90 seconds on the general subject.
Great, thank you. I'm one of the families that's raising kids who's choosing to stay in San Francisco. There's been a discussion about why families are leaving San Francisco. I'd like to flip that discussion. I'd like to talk about why families are staying in San Francisco. What are the assets that we have here in this city that we can build upon to make San Francisco a place that's going to work for families with kids? It's going to be our schools. It's going to be our parks. It's going to be housing. Those are all the things that I want to make sure that we can show up. And I have a track record of already working on those issues as chair of the budget committee, and even before that as a community organizer working at Coleman Advocates for Children and Youth. I'm committed to working from the outside in of City Hall to make sure that we can keep our